What makes a great market?
Ideally, I think it depends on the suburb.
Yeah.
But I'd say for this suburb, having things that capture families with young children to make them stay in the building, very reasonably priced items.
And then, but then that also comes into being a reasonably priced market that, we know anecdotally we've been a launch pad for people starting with us, gaining, the confidence to start up a business in a sense, set up their store for the first time, sort of get the feel for it and then move on to other markets. So even if that's what we are, that's still great as well. That's still providing a really valuable thing for platform for local makers, predominantly local women, across Whittlesea and of varying skills and life sets and all sorts of things and ages, and I think that's really important as well.
The stallholders. The stallholders is the acid test.
Yeah.
So if they're coming back every month, we might, our perception, and I have to say, having done events for the whole year prior to that, and engaging thousands of people, I like numbers. I like to think that we've got 400 to 600 to 800 people, but that's not how the market is. It could be anything from 150 to 600 people. But the way that we capture people is not talking about market, because market, the word means that you have to spend money. And Thomastown, has a socio-economic indicator of 1, which is the lowest economic indicator. And it's not our role to force people to spend money. So the way that we capture people, or the way that we understand what people want is free things for their kids. So all the money that goes into the market, the $15 stallholder fee, goes into engaging magicians to come and entertain kids, the petting farm, the craft activities. We spend quite a bit of money, and this goes back to the relationship with the library. The library backs it up with staff and with activities, and it's a win-win all round, really. And you have the stallholders dictate the type of market it is, which is it's great. And I would say this as being a permanent fixture and something that will evolve and grow, and goes back to the remit, which is community engagement. So it ticks boxes. It's social. It's
if money is a problem, then I wish I had a couple of problems to spend.
It gives people the opportunity.
Money is certainly a
to,
problem
find
in
out
the
what
not-for-profit
else is in
sector.
their suburb and in their library.
How you get it and how you use it.
We're in neighbourhood houses are in a unique position in that we get ongoing state government funding. So we funded, as I've said, through the Neighbourhood House Coordination Service Agreement, and we also get funding. There is 5 neighbourhood houses in the City of Whittlesea, and we all get a sum of money from the City of Whittlesea. So that's guaranteed money in the bank. We run as a not-for-profit. We're managed and governed by a voluntary committee of management made up of workers and people who live in Thomastown. So there's no financial risk. There could be a financial risk if you didn't run your house like a business. So we've been very fortunate in that the money that we got from Shape Your Future, we've been very prudent with that money, and so the market doesn't, running events as opposed to, I would see events and markets as being different. So if we're going to run a big event, for example a snow day, it's really, the labour is already paid for, and that's usually where a lot of private businesses fall down because the labour costs are so high. Well, that's already in our budget. And those material costs, well, we're really fortunate in that we've run the organisation prudently, that we don't have to make money from our events. That's not the point. And that's a very significant difference between being a for-profit where it's ticketed and, you know, many events. It's what we spend. It's not a break-even proposal. It's not about making money. And sometimes it's not about numbers who come through the door, really. Sometimes it's about... Essentially, neighbourhood houses are about affecting a change on a micro level. And if that is a volunteer has gained confidence enough to then look for work, or now has a referee that they can rely on to get them work, for me that's a win.
Completely. If you've got a stallholder who took up a craft to help them with overcome a mental illness, and then decides that actually they can, you know, sell that at Thomastown Market because it's just down the road, and that then inspires them to apply to another market outside of Whittlesea, that's your win for that market, that month, that year. So it's a lot more anecdotal and comes more from that end of pack-up market when you're exhausted and those trestle tables seem 10 times heavier than they did 4 hours earlier. But when you get those sorts of stories, that's what makes a good market. And if you've got a kid that walks out with a sparkly headband that they've made at the craft table, and a happy parent because they've spent 4 hours but it actually hasn't cost them anything, that's a good market. So it's less about numbers and dollars than it is about those sorts of... And pretty pictures to put on my social media.
3 of the main components that I've been part of at Thomastown Neighbourhood House have been markets, coffee cart, and obviously this podcast. So I wanted to know a bit more about it.
Well, again, the market does definitely fit into that. You know, neighbourhood houses might run a market either within the confines of the house or a neighbouring hall or something like that, whereas, you know, we are one room in the library, but our offices are in with the library staff so that we can, you know, that facilitates that cross-working relationship really, really well. Coffee cart's located in the library, the market's located in the library, so we kind of occupy, we, you know, utilise lots of spaces, or we just set up spots and take over the library depending on your viewpoint. It's about that, because we're sort of hidden off the main track of the library, so it is about kind of forcing ourselves out there and engaging. And we also go to a lot of community events and that sort of stuff as well to kind of spread the word and open those doors, which the coffee cart is a major.
So the thing with that cross-pollination of ideas by being located in the library, the library office, is I guess one of the things is the makerspace. So the library has funded that and has implemented the makerspace, and we have also funded a lot of incredible workshops that have happened there. The leather making, the upcycled toys,
Introduction to sewing.
Intro to sewing, that was really popular. So those activities can only happen ultimately because of the relationship with the library. The coffee cart, we were all, the 3 of us sitting here, we're in on those really initial early discussions. So when we have the monthly market, we always got a coffee cart to come along. And we were, that's a good idea. Maybe we should build a cafe in the library. And then we went from the cafe idea to a mobile cart. And ultimately the coffee cart, as we all know, has to become an employment, education, training opportunity. And that's where it comes back into that sustainability, business viability. We know that we've worked on that coffee cart since August 2016. We know financially it's not viable, but we know we have the funds to support that until it becomes a robust training arm to the organisation. And there's ways of doing that. So the coffee cart, I think, I would say is one of our biggest assets, actually, because we all know it's about the chat and our head shift space that's changed since doing the coffee cart, from being nervous that we might not have sold a lot of coffee to that empirical, anecdotal evidence of the chat and the connection. One outweighs the other.
Since working at T&H, I've learned a lot about community and social engagement. It's been a real pleasure. Here Justine talks about staff.
And that's I guess if you've got a very small staff, which we do, is having people with really those particular skills. Like D's skill is marketing, is that social media online presence. I forget about it, I don't attend to it, it does need attending to. It's an insatiable beast. But D understands very well all the events, posting, how to hashtag well on Instagram, and understands that. So, like any good staff base, and you, Dean, bring like a plethora of skills in editing, and, this podcast will be something really quite special, as a result of us being able to engage you and you being able to utilise your skill base in a way that, would have had I have done this podcast, it would have been rather a pedestrian affair, really. But already what you've shown is that your skills in short filmmaking are a great match for this, and will elevate this to an incredibly professional level. And again, the cost of doing this. And this goes back to the thing about, do you make, is it viable? The cost for us is the staffing, and that's paid for. So, the odd bits of equipment we have to buy, we have the grant from the City of Whittlesea. So I think, I often I often do feel incredibly blessed that we're in this unique position. I mean, obviously each neighbourhood house is unique, but essentially what we're in a position to do is continually add value to a suburb that, in my estimation, has not had value added for many years.
It's a poignant comment. Something I see Justine, D, employees of T&H striving for every day. And that is adding value to the suburb through programs and events and coffee cart and markets and this podcast, bringing people together and giving them a place to be, evoking a sense of pride again.
Departing Thomastown.